Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday to our Family Focus event, specifically on the HMC Clinic program. I thank you for attending. And my name is Erin McNabb. I'm an Associate Director in the Office of Alumni and Parent Relations and proud member of the class of 2006. This talk is being recorded and will be shared on the Family Focus website next week. Please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A, not into the chat, and we will try to get through as many questions as we can after the presentation. We'll also try to send helpful links through the chat as they come up, so you can head there for any quick links. To quickly introduce the event, the Harvey Mudd College Clinic program pioneered collaboration between industry and education and has been a cornerstone of the curriculum for more than 50 years. As a capstone of the curriculum, the clinic program engages students in solving real-world technical problems for corporate, government, and nonprofit clients. I'll now hand it over to my colleagues Colleen and Zach to introduce themselves and talk more about clinic. Take it away.
Zach, do you want me to start?
That sounds perfect. I
Can...
will share my slides. Let me just say, I'm excited to be here representing Clinic. And both the two of us, since it is Tuesday, 2/22/22, are all too happy to be sharing with you something that we have been doing together for actually well more than 2 years. Isn't that right, Colin? It's many years.
2 times 2 years.
And I'll hop on this two boat because I had Zach Dodds my freshman year in 2002. So
that
awesome.
Is truly amazing. Let's see, is this, I hope I'm showing the right thing. And now I will go to full screen. How did that look, Colleen and Erin?
Looks great.
Okay.
Looks great. So go ahead, Zach.
Well, please introduce yourself, Colleen, and then I'll do a couple slides.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. So it's nice to not see all of you again. This is, I think, the 3rd year in a row that I've presented to the parents group. So some of this may, if you're here again, welcome. This presentation will be a little different than last year, but we're glad you're here. And my role, so I'm Assistant Vice President of Sponsored Research and Projects, which means that I work with a Sponsored Programs Officer on federal and government grants for faculty research, and also on the clinic program. So I joined the college to do clinic recruiting with the directors, including Zach, and have been doing that ever since. And it's definitely probably the favorite part of my job. So I will turn it over to Zach.
It is an awful lot of fun, and I have really enjoyed working with Colleen. My name is Zach Dodds. I've been at Mudd since 1999, and I have been a part of the recruiting for Clinic and the running of Clinic really the whole time, but most intensely the last 5 or 6 years. And Colleen and I are going to share with you an overview and invite a lot of time for questions. So this opening, let me just go page down. This slide that you're seeing right now is the first on our official Clinic sales pitch slide deck. So Colleen and I do this pitch now more over Zoom, but also we've done it in person many times, just opening up to more in-person pitches in a week. So I'm excited about doing that on the East Coast. So we want to provide a little bit of the Clinic program's official worldview, but I also want to take a closer look into the Clinic student experience. Here on this slide, the folks, the left 4 are students, although Matt Spencer, our engineering professor, looks like a student to me. I want to contextualize this because just this morning at 11 a.m., I was taking lots and lots of pictures because we were in person for our first springtime Clinic presentations in 2 years. This is Monica Yao of our Pure Storage team presenting some of the work they're doing right now. The projects run from the first day of the semester in the fall to the last day of the semester in the spring. This was the room. The room was only about a 5th or a 6th full of the seniors, but typically, and we hope this fall, it will be full of almost all of our seniors. In addition to Monica, who is a representative of Pure Storage, this is our Shopify team who are doing some VR ideation. This was the third team presentation this morning, which was for a company named Collaborative Drug Discovery, or CDD. You see the logo in the upper right there. Here, Alex is pointing out one of the molecules that the learning system that the students, this is a math clinic, the students have built, came up with, and its attributes, both positive and negative. Mia is the main presenter on the right. So this has just been a sort of touch on who is part of Clinic. And really, Clinic is held as close to the vest as any program at Harvey Mudd, and almost all students participate. All computer scientists do, all seniors. Not only do all senior engineers participate, but juniors participate for a semester. And in mathematics, seniors choose between clinic and thesis, and that's true in our natural sciences as well. That project that just flashed by of collaborative drug discovery is at the intersection of chemoinformatics, chemical informatics, and the team has expertise in both areas. Really, as these photos show, interdisciplinarity is one of the unique strengths of the Harvey Mudd College Clinic program. Let me just say a little bit about how it works and also hand off to Colleen. On the left is one of those presentations in the before pandemic times. That was a Claremont-based team. The way the teams form is that in August, 4 or 5 students are matched by the professors to projects that they are enthused about. And the sponsoring firm, whether it's a private company, maybe a government lab, maybe a nonprofit, ends up owning all of the IP. NDAs do happen, but projects cannot be so covered that students can't present, because our primary enthusiasm for Clinic is the remarkable, really unparalleled educational opportunity it gives these small teams of 4 to 5 students. There is a fee for Clinic, and this ensures that our partners, our firms, are invested. And these projects are something that those firms really care about, not just because it's a great experience for the students, but because it is an important exploration for their firm. There's a faculty advisor who's a coach and mentor, and projects run through the academic year. You can see here some of the points we make as we pitch Clinic. As a value proposition, it has been extremely successful in the past decade or so. So with that, let me, Colleen, just say next slide whenever I should.
Okay. I think, well, I'll just mention too that the value proposition that we'll talk about a little more in a minute is really one of the ways that sponsors will assess that is the student input, and there's a collaborative team effort and there's an individual effort, and together that I think is really what makes the Clinic projects productive and exciting for the sponsors. So next slide. Zach mentioned this a little bit, but this steps back to the recruiting timeline. We are in the process of talking to sponsors, getting commitments for the 2022-23 Clinic year, academic year. And the goal is to have project statements developed through the spring, business agreements signed by May, and then the projects are released to students by August 1st. And then they have a little bit of time to rank choice them, as Zach said. And they read all the project statements and decide which ones look interesting to them. And I believe rank them 1 to 5. And then the faculty come in and help match them. And the nice thing about that is that the faculty match the students based on their interests, but also are able to step back and look at the teams and form the teams based on skill set and based on interpersonal dynamics. With Harvey Mudd being so small, it's possible for faculty to sort of head off some potential personality conflicts. So I think that that's a really great advantage of working with the Harvey Mudd team, is that they're sort of bespoke. Launch day is September 1st, and in non-pandemic times, the sponsors will send liaisons to campus, and we have sort of a day-long orientation and meetings with students and things like that. And they come back to campus at the end of the school year on May 2nd, and that's Projects Day. And that is something that hopefully will be in person this year for the first time in 2 years, and something that we encourage parents to come to. It's a great opportunity to see not just your student present their work on their project, but you get to see the whole range of projects that our students have worked on. So if you want to, that's for 23 is May 2nd. This year, it's the first Tuesday in May. I think it's May 1st this year. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it may be May 3rd, 2022. We'll have to make sure.
Yeah,
It's the third.
It's the third. Thank you. It was the first last year. So this is how we talk to sponsors about the benefits of their project. This is kind of how we sell the projects to companies who see real value. They actually see business value in the projects. In fact, most of the projects, Zach and the other clinic directors work very hard to make sure that the projects have real business value. Things that are puff projects that don't really, don't have any meaningful substance to them are not great projects for the students, and they see through that pretty quickly. And that happens only periodically when sometimes a sponsor looks at a clinic project as a way to recruit those students. And that's not a great, that is a benefit of sponsoring a clinic project, but that should not be the primary motivation. The motivation, we hope, is the intellectual property or the project outcome. And we typically see about five patents a year for all of our projects. The financial value, we ask the sponsors to estimate the financial value, and it's typically over the clinic fee and often quite beyond the clinic fee. So in 2019, 2020, we had an estimate of $50,000 to $1.5 million for the value of the intellectual property. They also, as I mentioned, recruiting, talent retention, it's just a great way to showcase for our students the interesting work that a company is doing. So my favorite statistic is that in 2019, 2020, when the pandemic started, 100% of our sponsors reported that their projects were a success. And that was the year when in March we had to pivot to remote learning and remote teamwork for the clinic teams. So that's an extraordinary accomplishment, I think, for our students. Next, yeah. In addition to working with domestic companies, for-profit companies, we have 2 programs that are really mission driven. And part of our mission, as you may know, is helping students develop leadership skills and understand the impact of their society, their work on society. And 2 higher impact opportunities are Global Clinic, which prepares students to work in a global context with an international sponsor. Typically, they will travel to the sponsor site, hopefully in the summer, sometimes over another break, and have that experience. They also have to work with different time zones and sometimes a language barrier. And Social Justice Clinic, we introduced in 2018 in response to really student interest in social environmental justice. And we work with organizations that need technical help and don't have the resources to pay the clinic fee. So those projects tend to be very, very popular with students. And this year we're working with Tech Equity Collaborative, which is in San Francisco. We're working with LA Unified School District, and I think there's one other, but anyway, so that's how the program offers sort of broader impact. You want to go? Yeah, there we go. And these are our sponsors this year. So if you have a senior, you may see a name or logo that you are familiar with. We, as you can see, we work with small companies, large companies, government agencies, NASA, for consumer products, medical, really many, many different kinds of sponsors, all with very different kinds of projects. And I think Zach's, what he shared about the presentations earlier today was a great example of the breadth of the kinds of projects that we have. So Zach, you want to pick up here?
So I'm happy to pick up. I agree with Colleen that as both an advisor and a clinic recruiter, our ability at Harvey Mudd, because of the unusual curriculum that all students share, is to build bridges where otherwise it would be awkward or impractical. And so these projects, this logo board here is a testament to that, the large companies and very, very small ones as well. I want to say a few things about particular projects. I also want to say this brings Colleen and me to sort of the final slide of our pitch deck. So this is the pitch we make, whether we're traveling or on Zoom. And please reach out to either of us if a project might be something to think about, might be something to explore with a firm. However, so Erin, you have just rejoined. Let me ask you, how many more minutes do I have just to share some student experience of clinic?
You have plenty of time. I just wanted to maybe answer some questions before we move on to your project specific stuff.
Please.
So someone asks, are the students compensated for their work to advance the sponsors?
So I'm happy to answer that. The students, in a sense, are compensated because this is a credit-bearing course that students take in their both fall and spring of their senior year. It's a course that we ask each student to invest 10 hours a week or more as the project ebbs and flows. Each week as a team, that teamwork dynamic helps us really put the kind of energy into these projects that both the students and the external sponsors deserve. Students are not paid to be part of these projects, however.
Great. And someone asks, are students' names on the patents that you guys file?
They are. They always are. So submitting that patent disclosure does always include the student names. Often it's a really wonderful badge for students to take after their senior year. That said, having the student's name on the patent does not mean that there's any trouble with the IP. So the IP does belong to the sponsor.
Right. And then someone asks, are all parents welcome to say like the clinic presentations or only senior parents?
Oh, great question. All parents are welcome. And I loved that Colleen reminded or said how wonderful that final day is. Very often our clinic liaisons, the representatives of our sponsoring firms, love to come not just to see their team in a culminating finale, but also to see what the other 54 teams have done, because often that's how they strategize what they're going to do the next year. So yes, parents of underclass students, welcome.
Great. We do have a clarifying question about if clinic is just for seniors. So I know if you had a slide about which majors and how much time they spend on clinic.
Engineers spend one semester in sort of a ramp up in their junior year. But really, by and large, it is just for seniors, and it feels like it's part of that shared senior experience that all Mudders have. Did you want to say more on that, Colleen? No, it's all good.
I think you covered that.
Someone asks if clinics take place, say, off campus, what kind of transportation is available? So, I mean, speak to like the local ones, because I know I drove to like West Covina, but others travel much further, I think.
Indeed, Colleen, you mentioned the global clinic, and so they travel internationally, also to all four corners of the US. And part of that clinic fee covers all of that transportation. The program has run for so many years that those are smoothly coordinated with our really amazing clinic staff.
let me just emphasize too that really there shouldn't be any out-of-pocket expense for students related to clinic. All expenses should be covered, travel is covered, and all global travel is covered as well.
Yeah, did you mention clinic teams make a budget in advance about supplies necessary, and all of that goes through the clinic program to purchase that way? So students aren't paying for stuff out of their pocket. And always plenty of budget for snacks. So
indeed, that's true. And that budgeting process is a really important thing to have done. And it's been part of the clinic program since its inception.
someone asks, if a project fails, what happens to the students? I mean, nothing happens to the students. They're okay. But
indeed, so a project failing, often what looks like a failure on the surface is extremely valuable to the sponsor and to the team, because to the team, it shows just how authentic these open-ended explorations are. To the sponsor, we have had projects that quote unquote fail, that do not deliver the desired prototype or insight. And the sponsors have said to us as a clinic program, thank you so much, because you have much more efficiently and effectively helped us understand where to invest our own efforts in coming years. So those kinds of failures aren't really failures at all, they're successes.
that's it for questions. You can move on to your second portion.
All right, well, I will try to prompt more questions by just saying a few more things, a few more details about both the topics and the student experience of clinic. This slide is way too overwhelming to digest, but what I like about it is one of the points of pride at MUD is how many different disciplines that we can embrace comfortably and confidently. And in engineering, this iteration of design and test is part of every clinic project's sort of discipline. And it's always in a direction that's open-ended, that the firm and the students don't know what's going to happen next. And in computer science, the prototyping is absolutely exploratory. And then to reach in and to mathematics and the natural sciences, we bridge all of these things. To make this a little bit more concrete, let me just highlight a couple of recent engineering and CS projects. Not even all of these. We use these as our pitch slides. But on this, I do want to point out that one of the greatest explicit financial values to one of our sponsors was this top project in which a team redesigned the storage of a semi for the sponsor Metcell, and they found that they could put an awful lot more of their product into the logistic flow of goods, and it was just an enormous win. And whether it's a win in that sense or a pruning of poor paths, for the team to have contributed that is really the key. I'll go to the next slide because I have a couple of, that previous slide mentioned NASA. And one of the things that this small team experience builds is this esprit de corps. So here are three of our NASA and APET team members who took this picture and sort of were celebrating at the end of that first pandemic year, 2020, how their project had brought them together, and they bought these, as they say, NASA onesies, and charged it, as Aaron points out, within their clinic budget. So that kind of balance of ready for anything and still being deliberate and conscientious about the path at hand is everywhere present in clinic. So on the left here, you see Carolyn Du. She just presented a week ago for the Aquilius team that are wanting the Mudders to explore ways of controlling microfluid doses for human sample testing, medical testing. The other people, other than the one seated, that's Carolyn, they're all high school students who just happened to come by and ask, what's your clinic team doing? And Carolyn so generously said, well, I just presented last week. Let me share with you what we were doing, and I will share it with you right on this next slide. So, oops, there we go. This was from, I just excerpted from their presentation. So this microfluidic control can be done in a number of ways. This is actually a really interesting one in which 2D forces are applied, in this case, to bring those orange bubbles of fluid into a desired pattern. And since they were presenting on Valentine's Day, they made it a heart. But that kind of investigative work is characteristic of Clinic. And to zoom out a bit spatially, this is the Aquilius Corporation workspace. And because Clinic is the capstone of so many mudders' experiences, so much of MUD is space for Clinic. It's really something that brings the whole campus together. The new makerspace is also used by Clinic teams, as there are all of the new engineering shops and the spaces in computer science, math, and physics. In those sides, the CS and math projects, I'm just going to share with you some of the ones we share as we pitch. To instantiate it, here is our second floor Sprague space. This is the Proofpoint team. I just love Srinity's skepticism of my incessant picture taking here. Let me share with you what this team was doing. They were helping Proofpoint to distinguish real web pages from phishing or falsified web pages. This right here, just to test your distinguishing capabilities. One of these is real and one of these is fake. Perhaps you can tell which. But they were able to add real value in this sort of central part of Proofpoint's identity by taking a very different approach. They had computer vision algorithms look at the pages rather than just studying their raw content, their raw source. And to situate you in the current Clinic flow, 45 minutes ago, in fact, probably an hour and 15 minutes ago now, I was on a phone call with Kathy. She was in a car. I'm hopeful that she wasn't driving. It doesn't look like she was driving, but she's the project manager for the HMC Inc. team this semester. And we were debriefing for the meeting that we were preparing for tonight. That project is, as the images on the right indicate, exploring how to use off-the-shelf drones. This is just a $100 drone to drive away things like garden pests for homeowners. So it involves vision and robotic control. I love this picture. Just to give you a sense of the student experience, this is a telecon, not a videocon. I just love Christine Chen's face right here because she is being shown live a line of code that the sponsor is saying, okay, start with this. And her rather distressed expression is because this was the line of code she was being shown. And if that code does not have any meaning for you, well, I'm on board, because it doesn't have any meaning for me, nor did it have any meaning for the team. But to start with something that was entirely opaque and unfamiliar, and by the end of the year, the American Express team had done a beautiful job adding to the insights of their recommendation system. I'm not sure we ever figured out what that code did. But the truth is, those Clinic spaces are the entire set of sponsors. So often, as long as it's not a pandemic, we head out. This is a biotech firm named Fluxergy, and the team was fully suited up to participate in some of the meetings there. This is at the LA Food Bank, where they wish they had been more suited up, because this is the refrigeration room. And Colleen and I remember well going to the food bank to recruit the Clinic, and then this team loved being able to improve the food bank's computational systems, because there is an enormous, the fact that they measure the food that comes in and out in tonnage tells you that there's a remarkable flow, but the tracking of that flow, well, let's just say, was less careful than one might hope. And so the team helped significantly. This was a team for a company named EdgeConneX. I just love this picture. They actually were part of designing the sort of entry to new, the entry design to new data centers, mostly on the East Coast. And to the point about travel, so this is our Steelcase team, the before and after pictures of the flights up to Michigan, where Steelcase headquarters are. I love to show this. Oops, where's my next slide? When the HMC Clinic deliverable was turned on, the graph of the returns of the products that were at hand here changed starkly. And in Steelcase, both the students who participated and the firm who sponsored were simply thrilled with the collaboration, which did something that couldn't have been done purely internally. And that's the very best of what Clinic offers. So the Doosan Bobcat team and engineering team did an amazing job presenting really inside an arena at Doosan Bobcat, some of the autonomous bulldozer control that they had developed. But the student experience of Clinic is what makes it so unusual and so valuable for both sides. It's authentic and open-ended. The audience cares both about the project as an educational experience, but also about its outcomes. It's outward facing and outward serving. And the key to success is consistency and teamwork. And the fact that our students exhibit that so readily and so joyfully is just wonderful to be a part of. So that's a little bit more about Clinic. Let me pause there and hand it back to Erin.
Great. We only had one question come in about students being hired by sponsor companies. Can you guys talk a little bit more about that one?
You want to start on that one, Colleen, and I'll.
Sure. Well, I mentioned before that a lot of companies are using Clinic as part of their recruiting strategy for Harvey Mudd, and we do partner closely with the Office of Career Services, and we're actually trying to increase the visibility of Clinic sponsors at recruiting events and on our recruiting platform, Handshake. So there is a definite link to recruiting, but the link isn't that they are recruiting the 5 team members. The link is, these are Zach's words, but you should look at the team members as your recruitee, your recruiters, not your recruitees. So they become ambassadors out in the community. Mudd's a very small community, and they talk about the interesting work that they're doing, and that gets other students excited. So it is often that someone will get recruited by a Clinic team, but it won't necessarily be their Clinic sponsor who recruits them. You want to add to that, Zach?
I do agree that those sponsors who see their team as their sort of tentacles into the ecosystem of Mudd really enjoy a lot of from those relationships, and it works really well. For several years, the recruiting was about at a level of 1 recruit from the Clinic program, but as Colleen points out, it was not usually from the 4 or 5 of them, it was from their friends. So.
Great. Someone's asking about whether all students participate in Clinic. And although we've reviewed it, can you maybe talk about both who participates and what the other capstone is on campus?
And so every student at Mudd does have a year-long senior capstone, and it is either Clinic or thesis. And in mathematics and physics, you can choose between Clinic and thesis. In in chemistry and biology, thesis is the default, but many of those majors, especially if they have an engineering or computational side to their work, also choose Clinic. So it is in computer science and in engineering, those majors, every student participates in Clinic. So we definitely take advantage of all of those departments as we recruit clinics, but also the theses take advantage of the mutual expertise as they explore new academic paths.
Someone's asking for clarification about like a joint major, like a math CS major.
So now you're into the weeds, which I like, but that major does require Clinic. So if you're a joint math CS major, that does require Clinic. And let me actually add, because many of our joint math CS majors say, you know, I think I might prefer to do a thesis. And it is, in fact, we do ask them to do Clinic, and very often students who do Clinic thank us in retrospect for the breadth that experience provides, because it's a very different thing, even though pursuing a thesis is a wonderful way to sort of open up new area and new research. It's a very different thing to have an external set of eyes and an external desire for a project to succeed. And the teamwork level is much higher on Clinic than it typically is in thesis. And so that experience is a wonderful thing across the board.
Perfect. So for those off-campus projects, we were talking a lot about transportation, and you showed the airplane. How long do those students typically travel for? How do they take classes while they're away?
That outbound and inbound was just a overnight. So that was a 24-hour trip, maybe 36 hours. So it typically happens on a Friday, often a Friday before a break. But really, to think of clinic, it is like in a sense, an internship where it happens on our campus rather than your or the firm's campus. And so there are advantages there.
So how often are students teamed up from diverse majors like computer science, chem, and bio? Is there a deliberate mixing of disciplines, or does it organically occur?
That's a great question about the mixing of majors. It's deliberate. So when a project would benefit from that, that is precisely what we do. Some projects sort of fit into the mainstream of a discipline, and they tend to have majors from that discipline.
So like when you guys create the clinic list, it'll be like 4 engineering majors and 1 bio or something like that. So if it's a bioengineering or 2 bio.
That is absolutely right. So
something like that.
I'd also like to mention that there are students from the other 5 Cs that participate, and they are not usually CS majors. They're often either physics majors or I guess they're computer science majors at Harvey Mudd, but sometimes we get economics majors and other people who are just interested in the technical product development process. And that brings a really interesting layer to some of the projects.
Can you guys talk a little bit about how projects and students are matched and what that process looks like at the beginning of the semester?
For sure. So as Colleen mentioned, we have the project descriptions ready, we hope by August 1st. About August 20th, the full faculties, the full departments of engineering and CS and math and physics get together and do really a hand matching, because we know the students. During that interim from August 1st to August 24th or 25th, the students have expressed interest, and we seek to maximize the overlap with projects they're interested in. But
and by interest, you mean like a tiered list of like
a tiered list. So
you're
they
like
rank,
first choice,
all
second.
projects.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. They rank all 20 CS projects, for example, or all 25 engineering projects. And we, in the past several years, have been able to match every student with a project that they were enthusiastic, or there's an even beyond category, like this is my favorite project ever. So we at least get to the enthusiastic spot, and many get their favorite as well. But we do it by hand, and we do it considering the sort of backgrounds and dynamics. We want the teams to be be balanced. We want the teams all to be successful.
And do you consider like gender balance and those kinds of things as well?
We do. We do consider gender balance, and I think some of the teams that have gone by have been well balanced. However, every year there are all male teams, and every year there are all female teams, and so we do allow that to happen as well.
Just depends on the project, right?
Depends on the project.
Great. So someone asks, does the junior year of clinic only happen in the spring?
It does not. It happens both semesters. And it is a wonderful on-ramp, I say with a note of envy as a CSer, just because the students get a chance to dive in, and then they have experienced clinic, and the clinic gets a chance to have experienced what it's like in many places to have teams that add resources and then take away resources, and they manage it really well.
Yes, it's a fun dynamic having the juniors on your clinic team for sure. So someone asks how those juniors are placed onto clinic teams.
It is the same process. They express interest. There may be a little bit less, sort of less close matching, because there's a hope that the juniors feel like this is an experience to reflect on whether or not it was your favorite topic, and then come at your senior year project in which you share a team of 5 and a topic for the whole year, with that experience having been digested and ready to go.
Perfect. So this question is more about the sponsors. So are all your sponsors matched to student projects, or do some sponsors not get students in a specific clinic year? Maybe Colleen, you want to talk a little bit about how you wrangle the number of projects in a certain year?
Sure. So the number of projects that we recruit every year is based on the number of students. So no, there are no projects that sponsors offer that don't get students. We, the directors like Zach, work very closely with the sponsors to make sure that the project will have the right educational value for the students, and also honestly the right appeal to students. And Zach would be better to say this, but I don't think we typically get projects where no one signs up for them. Our students are diverse enough and the projects are diverse enough that I think they generally find something that they like, and project teams always get filled for the sponsors.
And I'll just add that, in a sense, the vetting you're describing happens before. So if they're on the slate on August 1st, it will run. But indeed, Colleen and I and my colleagues in engineering, Gordon and Chi-Min and others, we're always taking a look at projects and asking, would this be a great experience for the students? And I really appreciate Colleen's point about there's also a pitch to be made to the students. And often this is a great way to bring the firms in as collaborators with us, because they really want the project to look exciting and compelling.
Right. So someone's asking about, for the clinic day presentations, are any being recorded so that parents who can't attend in person would be able to watch?
I believe the answer is they all are. Colleen, am I off base on that?
I believe that's certainly been the case the last couple of years with the pandemic. I'm not sure about prior years, but I think this year we can probably expect them to be recorded. And I'm not sure how they'll be made available, but certainly a student could ask for a copy of their presentation. I suspect they would get it anyway.
Yeah, so make sure to ask your student if they get the recording, if you haven't seen anything from the college about how to get it.
I will say that the plan also this year is for it to be a hybrid. Project Stay is going to be hybrid, so there will be an online remote component of the presentations, and everything's still evolving. Things keep changing, but that it seems fairly certain that there will be some kind of a remote opportunity to call in, dial in, watch some presentations.
Zach, did you have more slides? We have more questions, but I just wanted to.
Well, to ask me if I have more slides. No, I mean, I don't have any more slides that I was going to dive into, so I'm set. More questions is probably good.
Great. Can you stop sharing then, maybe?
Oh, sorry.
So they can see our beautiful faces bigger, because.
Sorry.
So someone's asking, how do you evaluate students in their contributions to the team?
That is a wonderful question. And so that happens by the advisor. So I have 2 teams right now, and I evaluate them on consistency and time invested. And that's a nice way to make sure that any particular outcome is not high stakes. Because if something isn't coming out the way we might hope, we pivot. There's always a pivot to a more productive path. And it's really, you're assessed on that ability to be flexible and ability to let the vision that we're striving for adapt to the situation at hand.
Great. And correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've been in clinic. Each semester there's a team leader who might help the faculty member who they're partnering with talk about the participation of the team members in general, correct?
That's absolutely true. And in fact, it has widened so that at the end of each semester, the whole team gets to reflect first and foremost on how they as individuals felt like they did and felt like they invested, as well as their teammates. So the program is in part so successful because it is so team-based, and we take that team dynamic very seriously, and we do seek feedback for it, and it is absolutely part of the assessment.
Perfect. I promise I didn't plant this parent in the questions, but how can parents get involved in providing information about this program to our employers? How many sponsors do you have now?
I can take that. We have 44 sponsors this year, and that's a little bit smaller. The program's a little smaller than it has been in past years, partly because of enrollment and partly because of just other capacity issues. If you think that your employer would be a good candidate for a clinic project, definitely get in touch with either me or Zach, and we can talk you through ways to approach your employer. I will say that one thing I don't think we've mentioned is that we'll work with you, we'll work with the company to craft a project, and we never reject a project if something, if we've agreed on a project. So it's not a risky proposition to talk with us about clinic. It's something that most people feel very good about proposing to their employer, partly because there's almost always great value to the company. So get in touch with, the short answer is get in touch with me or with Zach. We're both on the website, but we're both accessible by email too.
Perfect. And someone's, just to clarify, a junior who's joining a clinic team is joining a set team that's already there for just a period of time, and they're not doing their own project for a semester.
That is beautifully stated and entirely correct.
Yeah.
They're an apprentice in a sense.
Right. And another question, when would a chemistry major choose between, say, doing a clinic or a thesis for their senior year? Would it be when they're registering for fall classes the previous spring of their junior year, or in August when the clinic opportunities are offered?
No, it's the former. So a chemistry major, for example, and chemistry majors have absolutely done CS clinic and engineering clinic. They would be choosing the spring before, as they were signing up for their fall classes. And it would involve their chemistry advisor, and if there were a project, and perhaps it would be a much less formal process than the premise sort of posits, because I could imagine a computer science clinic director saying, okay, Carl, our chemistry chair, we desperately need 2 chemists. Let's see what we can do. So the process would be very fluid and informal and would involve everyone and would be a win-win for everyone.
Great. Someone asked, do they get credit as a junior? Yes, it is. It's just like another class that you sign up for. And then someone asks, are there any government sponsors like federal, state, or local agencies? And
Colleen, do you want to?
Sure. The answer is yes to all. On the federal level, we work with the national labs, not all of them, but many of them. We work with NASA, JPL, Sandia, Livermore, Los Alamos. And on the state level, not as much so really at the state level, although we have had some projects, and even locally, we've worked with some local governments, but also local nonprofits. Those tend to be where the social justice projects end up, is supporting local nonprofits.
Perfect. So we're still on the juniors. So do you select the junior, or do they communicate their interest to you? I thought it was just for seniors. Sorry if they missed something. The juniors are just engineers. So let's just be clear. Not all majors do it.
True. And they do express preferences. They may not have quite the same force as when you're a senior, but they're certainly taken into account. The experience is what the clinic program is eager for the juniors to have had.
Yes. Someone asked if when the projects are released in August, are they released to both juniors and seniors?
Because that's an engineering specific question, I don't know, but my hunch is yes, both.
I think so. I think that's how that goes.
Let me just say, I am excited to hear all the interest in that junior level. That may be because some of our parents have their students are juniors or potentially next year juniors. But it is certainly true that one thing about Clinic is it's a program that's been around since 1963, which is a remarkable thing. And instantiations exist in lots of other places, but 63 was pretty early for this kind of project-based collaboration. And we are always trying to refine the program and evolve it to match current needs and current interests by students. So I say that just because I could imagine a future in which the opportunities to be part of these collaborations was open to even more underclass students. There are lots of forces at play, but we are definitely trying to optimize the educational experience at HMC. And this is one of those distinctive parts of an HMC undergraduate experience.
Great. I love this question. So if a small company or nonprofit has a project but can't sponsor it monetarily, are those projects still possible for HMC to accept, or like how do they get funded if, say, the main company can't do it?
I'll take that. So with nonprofits, we do have a mechanism for providing pro bono projects, and that comes through the Social Justice Clinic program. It's also at the discretion of the faculty clinic director. So some years we have a few more if they're really great projects. And for small businesses, like for startups, there may be an opportunity, especially with the new emphasis that Harvey Mudd is putting on entrepreneurship. I think that we may see more of those projects come through where it is a startup company. And we have done some partially funded projects as well. But typically a large company, medium-sized large company is paying the fee because it's a good value.
Right. This leads to another question about with like the new entrepreneurship initiatives, is there a likelihood of startup kind of clinics? Do you
Yes.
Yeah.
That seems,
I would say a high likelihood.
Absolutely. All right, we are just at the hour. Do you have any final comments, Colleen or Zach?
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Someone asked, is this be reviewed for later? This is being recorded, so it will be up on YouTube later for everybody. Thank you so much, Zach and Colleen, and thank you to our audience for your great questions and for attending this event. Our family events continue next Saturday, March 5th, with our event with the Division of Student Affairs staff and student leaders on campus. That event is listed out on our Family Focus website, easily accessed from the parents website, hmc.edu/parents. I hope to see you at future Harvey Mudd College events throughout the spring. And thanks again for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. Bye, guys.
Thank you.